Last presentation of the day, Phoenix Center update regarding RFP bids for public-private partnership. Madam Mayor.
Yes, Council, and once again, I want to commend our Deputy Mayor for carrying on this Blight program. We're going to have a blight-free event next spring to commemorate what we have done as a city to be committed to take this blight from our neighborhoods. But what I come before you to present this evening is about Phoenix Center. To give you an update on where we are with that process. This is something we're going to bring to every council meeting. This is probably the most important issue for the city right now. One of the reasons it's important because time is mounting here for council to act on this because, you know, we have a settlement agreement terms that we have to meet. Some of you were able to talk to Judge Gerald Rosen, our court-appointed mediator for this particular lawsuit that we had settled. And he came, and for the ones of you who weren't there, and for the general public, to know that he had come and visited us because he was concerned that the city had not moved forward in that 2 years for the to get to the settlement terms. So he has said that this was a good settlement, he thought, and for the council to delay action and to risk a default on the settlement requirement terms would be like, and I use his words, handing the keys to the city treasury to the owners of Ottawa Towers. So I thought I would just wait. I'm going to give an update.
No, let me clarify something.
Yes.
We're not going to be talking about the Phoenix Center at every council meeting. So I don't want you to put that out to the public that there's going to be Ottawa Towers discussion at every council meeting. That's what you just stated, Madam Mayor. So what I want to be clear on is an update means new information.
Yes, Council
You spent
President.
the first 2 minutes of your presentation talking about the past. All I'm saying is you asked to be on the agenda for update about the public-private partnership, not to melee the city council and what decisions we're making.
Yes, if you will listen to the whole predicate that I'm trying to establish, I'm trying to put this in a format that people can understand the whole condition and why we're talking about that. So we're going to give you an update on what is happening in terms of this process. This has been quite a long process since November 1st when the council first voted to approve the settlement agreement. And one of the things that's going on right now is, you know, we have chosen AUK for the owner's rep, but the next phase was to choose a architectural design company. The bids have gone out for that, and bids have come in, and we're now going to leave it right there for us. Ariel, please. Those bids have come in, and now the team is looking at those bids to see about choosing those. But there is no way to pay them until, of course, council decides on the financing. And the other thing, the process is going on, is the fact that council did ask us, and this was supposed to run concurrently with the financing decision, and that was to put out bids for public-private partnership. Now, we did do that to be coherent with what the process was you wanted us to do, and those bids will be ready, and the bids will be open next week, early next week, I think the 16th. So we're going to have a report for you on that by the 17th, which is next week, next Tuesday's meeting. But there are a couple that have come in, or at least this one has come in before the bids were due. I think council has seen these because at least he told us that he had shared this with some of you. So because of the time frame that we're working on, I thought maybe I'd go ahead and at least review this one with you and with the public to see the kinds of things that are established here. Now, I know you're hoping that this would replace the financing method, but as we go through, and I can do this very briefly, it is in your packet with the proposal that was submitted by this particular bidder. In addition to the fact they had given you, it looks better than it looks in your packet, but I do have the proposal with the pictures that he'd shown with a lot of buildings downtown. $80 billion worth of buildings, as a matter of fact, but there's nothing in the proposal that says how we would pay for that. So that is a part that's left to be established in terms of this particular bid. But the bid is 3 pages long. I'm going to summarize it for you briefly. Essentially, the bid assumes that the city is going to take out the $19.35 million in bonds. And what they want us to do with the bonds is to form a partnership with them. This is their idea of the public-private partnership, and buy Ottawa Towers together. So, and then we would jointly own Ottawa Towers, both those office buildings and the garage. So, I don't know if what you have thought about them, the ones who have council members who said that, who they said they had already talked to. I don't know who that is, but I don't know what you think about this. But right now, we're just trying to figure out how to manage a garage, and I don't know what the city would do owning 2 office towers as well. So in terms of this particular public-private partnership bid, if you'd hope to find some useful bids, I'm not sure that this one is the one that you were waiting for. So I just went ahead and got this one reviewed because of the time and the essence that we have here. I wanted to keep moving forward to show council that we're doing our job as administration to move forward and give you the information as we get it in. Now, the importance of this, once again, is that, go to the next slide, would you please? In terms of the time frame that we are in, go to the next one, please. All right, the date that we're on, just to establish the time frame. In November of 2018, council accepted the settlement agreement. The end of the 2-year period to do the Phoenix Center repairs or risk default was 2 years. A year and more has already elapsed, so we actually have just 1 year left to get to November 1st, 2020, by which time the settlement terms must be met or risk default. Now, what does default mean? Go to the next one, please, Ariel. Default means that the city could risk going back to court, and at that point, it's very likely that the city would be served with a judgment levy. Judgment levy of $30 million would be visited on every man, woman, and taxpayer in the city of Pontiac and property owner. And that judgment levy and those kind would have to be paid in 1 year. So I'm trying to avoid that. And I think because the time is mounting, because that year has gone by without much motion here, that we need to move forward, council, and we're going to continue to present that to you because it's not something that we want to have happen for the city. So today is December the 10th. We hope the council will continue to get the information it needs to decide to move forward. And we're going to continue to bring that information to you, particularly next week when you have the results of the public-private partnership bids that you asked for. We'll see if there's any gold in their hills in order for you to do that, or are there some other financing methods that you need to look at. We're getting down to more limited options now, but more importantly, we're getting down to limited time. I'd like you to go back, Ariel, now to the slide we had just before. All right, one more. Good. All right. So go back. All right. So this is what I mentioned about a judgment levy. As the judge came to town, he said, you better tell people what the facts are here, because you've wasted a year of that 2 years you had for the settlement agreement, and people should be advised ahead of time what the seriousness of this and the impact is this. Now, I don't want to be hit. I'm a taxpayer here, and I don't want to be hit by the judgment levy, and I would be willing to assume that most people here would not either. So a judgment levy of that amount would not only bankrupt the city, okay, but it would result in an assessment for every taxpayer and property owner in Pontiac. So those are the things that we need to really get real about, council, and I don't want to sound the alarm button, but as time is wasting here, we've got to realize that we've got to move forward so that we can do the prudent thing for every citizen in Pontiac. And that means that we're going to continue to present this issue until we can get a resolution, because right now the clock is ticking, and every week that goes by, there's less time to get these repairs done and to meet the terms of the settlement agreement. So I thank you for the forbearance, and I see my time is up, and I will move on.
Councilwoman Peeler, then Attorney Sharp.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. When I'm reading through this proposed offer that's put in front of us, it also mentions we would have to buy the 3 schools that Chuck Stevens owns. Now, we know that one of them is Emerson, and it's in a less than desirable thing for my dog, let alone for humans. And one is McCarroll. What is the 3rd school?
I don't know, it's in here.
No, it's not. It says
okay.
3 schools.
All right.
I know about McCarroll, I know about Emerson.
All
I
right.
don't know the 3rd school.
All right. I can't name it for you off the top of my head right now, but there are, as we said, this is dependent on their
And
having.
Madam Mayor, thank you. You gave me my answer. We don't need to go into any more detail. I
Okay.
promised the president short and sweet, and they just gave me the answer.
All right.
Thank you.
Very good.
Attorney Sharp.
I just have a quick question. So if are the proposals due December 16th?
That's correct.
So is it proper that you would disclose one of the proposals before getting all of the proposals to the?
Well, this came in before we even put the items up for bid. They submitted this, and I'm just saying this is one of the public-private kind of partnership proposals. So this wasn't part of the bid offering. They did their own proposal. And so that's why I'm talking about this one, because I think it's pretty evident, whether or not this has some.
So you're saying it's not a
leverage.
part of the bid, the regular pool of bids?
No.
So that's going to be aside from?
So whatever comes in, after the bids were posted, the RFP was posted, will be the ones that we will open officially on the 16th.
Again, so this one is not going to be an official one. Only the reason I'm asking, because if
Yeah.
it is, then it's not, I don't see that being fair to discuss theirs when the others have not yet been received, is the
No,
point.
we're very fair. I'm just saying that there were some that were part of the bid process. This was not part of the bid process. They elected to do their own proposal. This came in a while before.
So this is, Attorney Sharp, are you finished?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I know that they've had a meeting with you months ago. You decided to bring this today, knowing that you're going to do an opening of bids next week, and those are going to have to be presented to the council anyway. I feel that you just use this as an opportunity, Madam Mayor, to then reiterate the point of the deadline and us going back to court. What I didn't hear in all of this time that you said the council has been wasting and the clock is ticking is any other financing options other than the bond that you originally started with coming as a way to pay for the Phoenix Center. What I haven't seen is any documentation to the county, to the state, or to the government asking for any kind of relief, grants, or anything to help offset some of these costs that were brought on by a lawsuit that the emergency manager started without the approval of then council or then mayor, and that you continue to fight to the Supreme Court. So every time that you say that there is a potential judgment levy, you always mention what would happen in worst case scenario. I have never heard you mention the other alternatives, one being that if we end up going back to court because the judgment is not satisfied, a judge can look at the agreement and say that this is unreasonable, because what the judge who helped in arbitrate the negotiation has not said that this was a good deal for the city at no point. And so you said that he came because he was worried about defaulting and all of this stuff that happened. This settlement agreement, just for all the citizens out there in America to know, is one of the worst and lopsided agreements that I have seen personally. And I'm just speaking for myself because I can't speak at the council, so I want to make sure that the next communication that comes out from Pontiac doesn't say the city council says X. This is a Kermit Williams statement. There is nowhere in which I look at the settlement agreement that shows a benefit for the city of Pontiac, especially when we promised them spaces in perpetuity. And so we may be in a better situation by having to go to court. I'm not saying that we should. I'm saying that you can't promise the doomsday scenario only in order to get bonds and not talk about any other financing options that would be available to the citizenry of Pontiac. I just believe that you guys started off with the bonds as what you believe was the best way to pay for the Phoenix Center, and we've proceeded down that course ever since. with no other options other than saying we're going to levy it on the taxes or we're going to do a bond. The council voted against issuance of bonds like almost 6 months ago now, and yet and still this has come back proceeding as if the $19 million bonds is there. And it's interesting that you highlighted this 3-page agreement that comes out that assumes that we get the bonds. So even what you presented, because I know other people have given you options about the Phoenix Center and have had conversations, what you presented to the general public today was still based on getting these $19 million in bonds. So I just wanted to highlight that out of everything that you picked out because you thought this was important enough to mention this week. And I have good evidence that the person who even presented this particular issuance may not even be on the team and in position to even follow through on this deal if they thought it was a good deal. So I just want to be clear that we're not giving the public the wrong perception about where we are, and we're not going to continue to use every Tuesday night to come back and tell the council that they should do bonds.
I agree with you, Mr. President, that we should be factual. There are some things that you have said that aren't quite factual, and if you give me a chance, I can show the public why that is, why I hold that contention. One of the things is, you said we haven't given other options. We have given a number of options. If you've been listening, we have given options throughout the time in which the consideration, since the time we had the settlement agreement. There are a lot of options, and there's some options that are better than others. And we've come to those. In fact, we gave the citizens the same option. We had 436 people survey in terms of 4 different primary options. And 88% of them chose the one that it seems to be the most favored. So 88% of people aren't all wrong in terms of their conception. The other thing is,
hold on, I got to stop you there. The survey was not scientific. I watched you deliver the survey at the Bowen Center,
okay,
and you did a precursor before you wanted them to fill it out. And the only way they could fill it out is if they wanted to get tickets to a concert. So what I'm saying to you, Madam Mayor, is don't say 88% of the population when you have 400
of the survey.
No. Mm-hmm. I need you to be clear because you talk about being factual. I just want you to tell the people that this was not a scientific survey. This was not sent out with the tax bills as you've done other things in order to get the widest constituency base. You were sent out with specific people who wanted to go to a specific concert. If you probably look at or break down the demographics of the people who filled that survey out, there's probably at least 70 to 80% of those surveyed that will be considered seasoned citizens. And so that is not the whole dichotomy of the city of Pontiac. Matter of fact, if you wanted to elicit some people, we have an OU Pontiac partnership. You could have had OU administer the survey with people who would do it scientifically. What I'm saying is you can't start a survey out with number one option, do nothing, and then circle the 2, no dollars to the city. I mean, the survey itself was a joke. And you continue to mention it. And so we've been gracious enough to let you show a PowerPoint. Mr. Lyons has showed it and mentioned it at several meetings. But to be quite honest, that survey was an insult to every citizen in the city of Pontiac to think about how to be real factual. Because we can do a real survey. It's called a vote. We can put it on the ballot and let the people vote, and then we'll see what those numbers come out with, because that's something that is the democratic process. So if that's where you want to go talking about surveying somebody, that's an easy way to survey. We can put it on the vote in March and let everybody vote on it.
Mr. President, I hope you're not calling 436 residents, well-intentioned residents, the city a joke.
No,
I will speak in that behalf.
The survey was
They're not a joke.
I said the survey was a joke.
They're not a joke.
I said the survey was a joke.
The people who did that did it in a well-intentioned manner.
The survey was a joke, Madam Mayor.
I don't want to debate survey. Let's talk about the things that are important to the city council president. Let's talk about the things that are important. And that is the fact that we have a settlement agreement which we must meet the terms of, or we default. I don't want to default, and I think there's a lot of people that don't want to default on this, and we need to move forward, Council President. So that's why I'm bringing this forward, and I want to keep that before you, and I want the people to know what's at risk. And you shouldn't be afraid of the facts. I'm just putting the facts in front of the people. Thank you for that, allowing me to make the presentation. Did you have a presentation?
Pro Tem Carter has the
I have
question.
3 facts to bring up real quick. The council did agree that when the figure came out to be $6 million, we did agree to $600 per year for 10 years. That's one. Second thing is, on March the 17th, 2016, Mayor, you had already lost 6 lawsuits already, and we kept asking you to stop. So we're not even going up to 2018, but 6 at 2016. 3, the Phoenix has 2,800 parking places, and they already said in their statement that they need 2,600. That only leaves 200 parking places left. So it's idiotic what the lawsuit was and what we gained out of it. Thank you very much. Those are the facts.
Actually, most people who have seen that settlement, considering the fact that when I started in the mediation 18 months before we got a settlement, we were in the process of losing that property, just like we lost the Silverdome. In fact, the emergency manager at one time was going to give it away for $1. So the fact that we pulled out and got the property and got the settlement terms down to what we could reasonably afford, that would have been the same thing we had paid had we done all the maintenance and the repairs over 14 years that we never paid. And so this is a property that remains in the city's hands for us to do that. But you signed the settlement terms, all council, so you are obliged on behalf of the will of the people to meet the settlement terms. You know, you signed those, you agreed to them. So there's some obligation to meeting that on behalf of the city.
Some of us signed it.
All right. All right.
You were here.
Okay.
So, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank
We're
you.
going to move on to item number 8. Recognition of elected officials. Do we have any elected officials? All right, we're going to move on to item number 8. Agenda address. Do we have agenda address? We're going to move on to item number 8.